Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another Genshin Impact lore reading session. I don't know how many videos of these are going to be incorporated onto the channel because I typically, in the past, I have tended to upload past lore reading content with the content that it kind of goes along with. But because we're in Natlan and we're reading Natlan lore during Natlan after the Archon quests, with tomorrow being when the 5.2 special program comes out, I don't know what content is going to be prioritized for YouTube. But like, obviously I'm going to leave all of the lore public and available for people to watch on Twitch at any point in time, just because I don't know what I'm going to prioritize or what's going to be uploaded to YouTube as like a lore reading video. So just keep that in mind. But like I said, we are at the lull periods of version 5.1. All content has finished. I have finished all world quests. I finished the Archon quest. I've 100%ed all areas. The only thing I'm planning on doing at this point is reading all of the lore that we're going to be getting into over the next couple of hours, and then doing all the local legends. Basically, we're just going to be waiting for the 5.2 special program. I think we're going to get the new area of the Flower Feather clan, the Masters of the Night Wind. We might get Waxaklahun in the distance over there, because as of right now, it is still locked out for us. But I think that is Waxaklahun, which is basically the second half of the Sage of the Stolen Flame and Xbalanque's pact that they made in the past with the Phlogiston and everything else in between. So that area will probably be the main course of content that we get into next patch, along with Chaska and Auroran. We are going to be getting into a bunch of lore reading. We're going to be reading books, weapons, artifacts, ascension materials, item descriptions, and everything else in between. I also want to give a big shout out to my moderators. I almost said my editors. My moderators who put together, and this is the long-standing weapon and artifact lore document that we've been using over the years. If you've seen any videos of mine focused on reading weapons, artifacts, books, etc. in the game, from Mondstadt, Liyue, Inazuma, Sumeru, and Fontaine, it has been kind of orchestrated here. My mods are absolutely goated. They give me the best possible way of bringing the content to you guys in a seamless way, because this would take me forever to kind of figure it all out, and because they do it, I don't get like spoiled or I don't see anything. So we have a bunch of categories here. The first of which is going to be for this video, we're going to be reading the Birth of Natlan, which is kind of like the main topic of the Obsidian set. And then the rest of these will follow in future videos, or at the very least, this entire stream will be covering all of this stuff here. We're also going to be covering Celestia, the Seelie, and the Moon Sisters, as I have not read any of these things that focus on them as well. So very excited, very eager to check out all of this. I hope you guys are as well. And after we read through all of this, we'll be pretty much caught up with everything tangible in Natlan until 5.2. And we have the location here as well for our immersion, I guess, if you want to call it. I just picked a specific location to get cozy for our reading session. So we have the Obsidian Codex artifact set. We're going to be starting with the Plume of Death, Root of the Spirit Marrow, a feathered accessory made in imitation of an ancient dragon's wings. Actually, it kind of looks like a dragon wing now that I see that. Perhaps it was once a memento of some forgotten history. In the age when wildfire consumed the roots of the world, and when the barbarian tribes sliced through the briars to open the mountains and woods, many stories transpired that were never recorded or eulogized in any human history. The wisest among dragons traversed the burning plains, carrying the seed split from the primal fire, stepping into the rugged, untamed land. Yet, as it walked through hot springs and valleys that dragonkind had yet to touch, seeing things grown from soil or created never met its expectations. Until one day, when the fog dispersed in a deep valley, it discovered the creator's most beloved and yet the weakest of species. Oh, okay. So it seems like the dragon stumbled across humanity. The weakest among species? Is that? I wonder if that's what it's referring to. Those who should still have been wrapped in Oh, yeah, okay. Those who should still have been wrapped in swaddling cloths, yet were born in a land where dragons did dance. And so could they eke out survival in the shadows of ancient wings. Though they had long lost their guidance, forgotten their past histories and memories, and lost themselves amidst mountains and woods, they endured still. Hell yeah, humanity's goated. Marveling at their tenacity, unity, and courage, the sage amongst dragons resolved to grant them the kindling of wisdom. Okay, so this is Waxaklahun Ubah, the wisest of the dragons, stumbled across humanity, and he was like impressed by their ability to thrive amongst themselves. But that precious gift was not without cost. It would civilize these oh, so he's referring to humans as barbarians because they were like uncultured and wayward. He was like, let me bring some civility to your life. Let me give you this fire and give you guys a purpose. I see. But that precious gift was not without cost. It would civilize these barbarians, but it would also order their destinies. But for unlike the plan of that first divine one, what the most sage one brought was the profane path of evolution. Its far sight had divined that at the end of that path, human blood would be poured into the derelict body of the moribund earth, merging two species and two bloodlines as one. Wait, what? And thus would an ancient pulse surge through a reborn civilization. Hold on, human dragon hybrids? Is that what's going on here? Guys, I've been asking for this since we finished Fontaine. Indeed, it would be as the wisest one said unto the first barbarian who climbed upon the floating landmass to visit it, which is where we are right now. We're on the upper sanctum. But from your heirs shall come the savior of two worlds. He shall be as brutal as the lions and scorpions, but as cunning as the wild fox. One day he shall slay. He's talking about Shibalanke. One day he shall slay the overlord of fire and ascend to the oldest of thrones. Praise be unto the ruler of two worlds. Holy shit! Oh my god, this is peak already, guys. And this is from One Piece. This is from the plume alone. So this is the origins of how Ubah discovered humanity, gave them phlogiston, helped them on their way from barbarianism to civility, and marveled at them. And one of the humans managed to reach where we are right now, which is Hanan Patcha, aka the upper sanctum, aka this is where Ubah taught humans how to wield fire, essentially. And I guess he kind of prophesized that one day a human will reach these peaks and will go on to slay the pyro dragon sovereign, and I guess save both worlds, the world of dragons and the world of humanity, and merge the two into one potentially. So dragons becoming humans or humans becoming dragons. I assume it would be the opposite, right? Because dragons were already the dominant race, but with humans coming up, the next evolution would be kind of like merging dragon kind and humankind together, which is also kind of what I think Aether might be. But that's a topic for another time. Holy moly, that was just from the plume. Next we have the Goblet Crown of the Saints, a crown made of obsidian that in ancient times was used in coronation ceremonies by noble tribal kings. In the era when the dark tide of filth arose from the sky's edge and heroes Sunbright marched forth to conquer. So this is during the Cataclysm, I'm assuming. Many stories transpired that were never recorded or eulogized in any human history. When human warriors bid farewell to their secluded villages and brought blessings of the Wyob to once inaccessible forbidden realms, the ancient dragons had become extinct from the fields they once ran upon, and the fruitful soil and springs had taken upon new colors. The palaces and temples built upon magma cliffs lost their luster, now silently waiting for the judgment at the end of days. In this dreamlike realm, cut off from the world at the end of the era of the ancients, too drew nigh. And in the lightless lands of the night, the sacred ones continued their dissension over those who delivered their final verdict. He was a hero, unprophesized, a champion unaccounted for by any plan. This was a time when the war chiefs of the tribes had abandoned their great cause of slaying wicked dragons, vying power drunk for supremacy. When their warriors plunged into endless warfare, leaning on savage beasts for support. And in those days, from the dark lands arose a king, bright as the newborn sun, warm as the budding dawn. He wore a crown woven from golden flowers, wielding a great blade of obsidian, and visited one tribe after another. Holy shit, this is freaking huge. Disagreement born from blades could only be resolved by the blade, and delusions born from ambition can only be subdued by ambition still greater. And the one who had thought itself master over evolution never imagined that those with strength would give it an answer beyond conquest and slaughter. Under the sun's radiance did the tribes make a pact of armistice, and thus did the sacred ones of the night realm lay their arguments aside and offer him the crown. The dawn of a new era emerged over the horizon, and when its light illuminated the earth, even the beasts of darkness had nowhere to hide. Holy fuck. So a savior from the darkness came through and saved everybody. So I don't know if this is referring to Xbalanque still, or if this is like a different event, because this could also be kind of maybe like Tenoch or the Scarlet-Eyed Youth. Because it says in an era when the dark tides of filth arose from the sky's edge. So I don't know when that would have been. Maybe that would have been after like the Abyss came into the world, like with forbidden knowledge. So it might have been a different era. Like that could have been the era of like the first and second, like their fight, their war, when humanity was still on the planet. So during all that craziness, a human rose up and basically took charge. I wonder if this is like sometime after the second who came, like the war between Fanis and Nibelung, allegedly, but before the Archon War. It specifically says when the dark tide of filth arose from the sky's edge. So I'm assuming that's like when Dragon King Nibelung brought forbidden knowledge to the world from beyond to fight the heavenly principles. So that was probably during like the initial era of mankind, and that could have been the earliest point in time where the human of this age rose up and decided to defend humanity at that time. I don't know if it was Xbalanque, because Xbalanque was the first Archon, which would have been after that point, but this could just be an individual regardless. Next, we have the flower. Reckoning of the Xenogenic. A flower meticulously carved from black crystal. It emits a mysterious light at night. In the days when the dispossessed divine envoys fell into realms devoid of light, goddamn, and when the ruler newly returned destroyed the blasphemous citadel, many stories transpired that were not recorded or eulogized in any human history. Okay, in the days when the divine envoys fell into realms devoid of light. So I'm assuming this was regarding like the Seelie civilization, the destruction of the Seelie civilization. Interesting. In the kingdom of Vishaps, lucky enough to survive when heaven and earth collapsed. Okay, so this is after the war. In the kingdom of Vishaps, lucky enough to survive when the heaven and earth collapsed, isolated by a vast sea of red soil. When their kin could only scrape by, impoverished in the expanses of desolate sea, they enjoyed freedom by the grace of the one who ruled over flames. Damn, when the dragons got fucked up, the pyro dragon sovereign was like, gather round, I will protect you, my kin. And yet the wisdom of fire had already been seized by the tides of feculent darkness. Only its gray corpse shambled on. To maintain dragonkind's remnant might, their blind, foolish heirs took violence for the rule of law. In this land of cinder, soon to vanish, upon which the sun had set, only one human cast their gaze towards the begloomed future. So the dragons, I guess, decided the only way we're going to survive is if we fight. And I guess that was seen as foolish, because the thing too is, I can almost imagine a scenario where Fanis came here and decided to amicably like say to the dragons, hey, I want to colonize your planet, is that okay? And he was willing to do it like diplomatically, and the dragons were like, no, get the fuck out of here. I feel like the dragons may have been the aggressors because they knew that if they didn't comply, that it would have turned out violent potentially. And I guess they have that right to, if this is their original home. But obviously they got usurped and they got overwhelmed, and they were ultimately defeated. I see light fall upon the rootless earth, the dragons prostrating before their ruler's deathbed. I see great wisdom, great art, great civilizations, and all shall perish. But endless cycles are the law of the world, and history will not cease on account of their sorrows. I'm sorry, on account of our sorrows. But tragic are my kin, for they see not how their folly serves to aid history's iron rule. Servants today shall be rulers tomorrow. Past slaves shall be future masters. Our race is mired in spiraling contradiction, inexorable. Only in sowing seeds shall we find salvation. Perhaps out there in the abundant primordial wilderness, there is a land that has yet to know the touch of filth and decay. Thus, passing through the searing flames and raging winds, it took as yet unextinguished primordial kindling from the ancient place beneath the magma. Bearing the hopes of another race, the wisest of dragons bid farewell to the splendorous city ineffable. So this seems to express that Waxaklahun Ubah, who was known as, like, I guess the sage of dragons, realized, damn, my dragon superiors done fucked up when they decided to fight the primordial one. They turned everything into ash. They destroyed everything. They decided that violence was the only way, and that is not, I guess, not a sustainable way to kind of rule the world. He decided, dragons are fucked, but I don't want this to kind of be the same case for humanity. So he yoinked the primal fire and he bounced. He was like, our race is screwed, but maybe humanity will do better than we did. So let me give them a fighting chance. Let me take this fire and let me go off into the world and give it to the Notlantians. It says human in quotations as well. So I wonder if only one human cast their gaze towards the begloomed future. I wonder if this is implying that Ubah was turned from a dragon to a human potentially, or had the ability to go back and forth. This is almost kind of reminding me of like the Oceanids of Fontaine. They passed as human, but at the end of the day, they were Oceanids that were in like a human vessel. I wonder if it's like a human passing off as a dragon passing off as a human because of the quotes. It says, in the land of cinder soon to vanish, upon which the sun had set, only one human cast their gaze towards the future. And it would have gone to Ubah, who thought, the future is humanity. The future is no longer the dragons. The future is humanity, and I will do my best to make it so. And so he took the primal fire, he took phlogiston, and he traveled to where it could best be served. And so he didn't look back. It says the wisest of dragons bid farewell to the city. Also, we do know about quote unquote the Bishop people from the Enkanomiya event. This could also be referring or calling back to that. These could be the Bishop people. So he could be like a human, but with like the vertical slit, like the vertical eyes. That could be the thing too. That could be like a dragon turning into a human, but still retaining their dragonhood. Very, very interesting. This is a crazy goated artifact set for lore. All right, next up, we have the Circlet, pre-banquet of the contenders. A vessel that seems to have been made by twisted and forming stones in a seemingly whimsical fashion, but it is an open question as to who possessed such strength. In the age where the burning realm's horn resounded never-ending, where heroes fought each other for conquest, many stories transpired that were never recorded or eulogized in any human history. When the priest of smoke and mist lit bonfires tall enough to block out the sun and offer the blood of other species to their valiant ancestors and invisible deities. When the heroes who had drawn from the flame rode a tamed beast to the fortress built from massive stone through the guidance of the tribal Wyob. When the reptiles that dwelled within a city, so ancient that none knew its builders scaled its twisted towers in terror. Only the wisest amongst dragons stood within the stagnant void, a silent observer of the grand drawn-out tragedy. Yo, Ubah was built different. Ubah was like, I hate my family. My relatives suck. Though the Envoy of Dusk was not part of its plan, the path of evolution did not thus deviate. The Envoy of Dusk? The Envoy of the Night? The Lord of the Night? Is that what it's referring to? Though the Envoy of Dusk was not part of its plan, the path of evolution did not thus deviate. And through careful selection and cultivation, the tribal heroes it had nurtured had ascended to the stage of competition between all parties. It believed that the strongest amongst them would become the hero who would rule all human tribes dwelling atop the Black Stone. Is this like the rules of war? In his name, they would make a covenant, raise a banner of the blazing sun, and march upon the city of deep wells that even the gods had yet to conquer. That kind of sounds like the pilgrimage and like fighting for archonhood. It is believed that the strongest amongst them would become the hero who would rule all human tribes, dwelling atop the black stone, right? On that day, the living corpse of the throne would split forth flames that could stain the sky red, and the new king would receive the primal fire as a tribute due them for ascension. On that day, the dragons would once more bow before the overlord of two worlds, and the knowledge of countless years of civilization would be open to him. For he knew that the foes in the shadows were not far off. Indeed, they still hid in the night's deepest depths, waiting to strike a final blow. For it knew that neither the gods in their heavens nor the high king among dragons would suffice. All knowledge and strength had to be gathered before that day came. Only by this could his stubborn kin awaken from the ancient shattered dreams of a decrepit king. Only by this could the ancient civilization welcome suitable successors and find its footing once more on the earth. Interesting. The humans are kind of in charge now, as of Natlin. I don't know if this is basically like the successorship of humanity. Like the strongest will take over, kind of like the Pyro Archon would choose a successor, and then that person would rise up, and then they choose a successor, and the Archon governs all 6 of the tribes. And then meanwhile, the dragons are sitting here like, damn, when are we gonna strike back? And then Ubah is like, we just have to kind of like break free from this. And it does mention here, they hid in the night's deepest depths, waiting for a moment to strike. I think that's referring to like the dragon heirs of the deep, right? The Bathismal Vishaps down in Enkanomiya, pushed all the way down there, and they've been like biding their time. So I wonder if Xbalanque had a greater plan in mind for humanity that went beyond just stopping the abyss. He had to have also known the situation with like, I think, merging the two worlds, the world of dragons with the world of humanity. I'm almost convinced that there is in some way, shape, or form a way of like, if you can't beat them, join them. You know what I mean? If you can't beat the humans, become the humans. And by allying with humanity, humanity will save the dragons as well from like this greater fate of the abyss and the heavenly principles and everything else in between. Only by this could his stubborn kin awaken from the ancient shattered dreams of a decrepit king. So I wonder if like Dragon King Nibelung was just like so on the money with going up against the heavenly principles that the other dragonkind agreed, and Ubah was like, you idiots, why are you listening to him? He's gonna get y'all killed. Y'all are like in a trance, you know what I mean? Like you guys have been like conditioned to just follow him, even though he's not like in the right sound state of mind, especially with everything regarding like the forbidden knowledge that he brought back. So yeah, it seems like Ubah was just like, yeah, I take no responsibility from my Dragon King. We got to do things differently. For it knew that neither the gods in their heavens nor the high king among dragons could suffice. Basically, Celestia nor the dragons can like defeat the abyss or defeat like fate, and all knowledge and strength had to be gathered before that day came. Yo, I'm gonna be real. Ubah is kind of goated. Kind of ahead of its time. 10 steps ahead from everyone else. Crazy. All right, and lastly, we are going to clear up with the myths of the Night Realm, a mysterious ritual element that is neither a timepiece nor a compass. Nowadays, no one has any idea what it is used for. All right, in the years when ancient humans dammed up the black tide with their very bodies, in the days when floating land and eternal night still walked separate roads, many stories transpired that were never recorded or eulogized in any human history. All know that, all know that brave and wise Cha'ak took the ever bright kindling from the, so this must have been like the first human or something. This must have been the first king, right? That king of humans that they talked about in the previous passage. Okay, so we have a new name here, Cha'ak. All know that the brave and wise Cha'ak took the ever bright kindling from the hands of the sage of the stolen flame, and that he shared this kindling with his fellow Okay. So I think Cha'ak was the first person who made it to the top of the upper sanctum and learned the sacred flame like who learned how to wield phlogiston, and then Chahak took that knowledge and shared it with the tribes people. Obviously, Xbalanque can't be the one to do everything first, right? Xbalanque was the first Archon, right? He was the one that took down the dragon, but it seems like this Chahak person was the first person to learn phlogiston usage, and that he shared this kindling with his fellow tribespeople, passing the secret of the flame onto all who would come forth to study it. Bidding farewell to long years of chaos and ignorance, the new sprouts of civilization sprung up once more from untamed wilderness. But within their massive walls, the winged one, who lorded over all, had yet to realize that the wheel of fate had begun to turn. That doesn't sound good, chat. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. Legend holds that the great sage who dwelled in the stillness of the floating land knew the answer to all questions in the mortal world, but that even he had no answer to two matters: the end of the living and the homeward path of the dead. Perhaps it was that the god of the night realm ruled over the underworld, for they were great foes of the sage in ancient times. Or perhaps his long-considered plan would crumble should the everlasting flame reconnect with the roots of the earth. Having mastered the majestic primal fire, fearless Chahak and his companion at last defeated the raging wicked dragon and founded the first tribe. Interesting. Is Chahak Xbalanque? Or is this Chahak person a different print? That sounds like what Xbalanque should have done. Unless this is a different dragon they're talking about. And yet, even ancient heroes cannot defy the verdict passed by time, for it is eternal. And so one by one, his companions bade him farewell. At last, only Chahak was left, a veteran of countless battles. His tribe had scattered, and none now sang of his saga. Only in the deepest night could he hear that call from a faraway realm, as if it reignited the fading flame in his heart. On the last night of his life, he climbed a high mountain to ignite the first flame. He called out, hoping to reunite with his former companions, and the god of the night realm responded. That night, people throughout the land seemed to hear voices from another world, like a mother's clear song, like the low whispers of old friends, the birth cry of the first Wyob of the Night Kingdom. What in the hell? Okay, so this Chahak person was definitely in their bag. They seem to have been the first person to master the art of phlogiston. This may actually have been before Xbalanque, right? Because Xbalanque is also just a human. So the sage must have just been teaching the flame, like the phlogiston usage, to this Chahak person. And then they went on to defeat the dragons and found the first tribe. Through fighting countless battles, he ended up dying. His tribe ended up falling. His tribe's people ended up dying. And then when he was about to die, I guess their death instilled the first Wyob, right? Because that was the first tribe. And I assume that first tribe somehow manifested like some sort of resonance with the Night Kingdom or with the ley lines, and that created the first Wyob. Like those deaths created the first Wyob, I think. I interpreted it as him dying and becoming the first Wyob. No. He heard the first Wyob. It says the birth cry, implying that his tribe dying gave birth to it. So I don't know if this is like a tribal thing. Like you have to have like a tribal union and like the death of your tribe. Maybe the Wyob manifestation are just the manifestation of everyone that has died in the tribes over the years at this point. Yeah, and I wonder what tribe this would have been and what Wyob this would have been too. It doesn't say like anything about the element or about the name of his tribe. It just says that it's the first tribe. So I don't know if we know the order of the tribes or the history of the tribes to that degree. Interesting. So they also just gave us the instance of the first Wyob and the creation of the first Wyob. We just don't know exactly what happened or what set this into motion. It just seems like this person on their deathbed, basically about to die, instilled something in the tribe or in the land or in the night realm, and it created the first Wyob. And we know the Wyob are connected to each tribe. So I'm wondering if it's just the fact of like, you know, when you die, like your tribe kind of converts into like a Wyob manifestation, maybe. I'm trying to correlate it to like Avatar. Like in Avatar, like there's the spirit realm, and like when you die as the Avatar, like you're not really dead. You're just like a part of a you're a part of like a collective at that point. Like you're physically dead, but your spirit lives lives on in the next cycle. So I'm wondering if that's kind of how it works too. Like the Wyob might be the collective history of all of the people of that tribe from the past. Because I've been kind of on the money with the whole Avatar: The Last Airbender parallels. It's basically kind of worked out for me in that regard. I think the only other thing that either Act 5 or the rest of these world quests will give is what exactly is the Night Kingdom? How did it come into being? Who created it? And what exactly are these Wyob manifestations? I think at the end of the day, that's like the main thing. I know like we got like little teases of it, but like I want like hard answers at this point, because that creation, like that process that they just gave us is still kind of like up in the air for me. Like I'm not entirely sure like how the Wyob just came out of nowhere in that moment with that first tribe dying. And I guess it's because all of the tribe was dead, right? This first tribe that was birthed in Natlan dies and something came of it through the ley lines or through the phlogiston usage, right? Maybe the phlogiston has something to do with it, because this is the first tribe that also managed to harness phlogiston. So I don't know if they're just kind of returning to the earth because it's their like maybe again I'm kind of comparing it to Fontaine, but like in Fontaine, those who had the primordial seawater, if they came in contact with it, they just returned to the sea. So I don't know if like phlogiston is like the energy of the world, so maybe if you die you just return back to the world, and that is in the form of the Wyob. Maybe this was a spectacular artifact set. I cannot believe that this much dank ass lore is here about the first human who harnessed phlogiston, the Sage of the Stolen Fire, which we still got more lore on them in the present, but the fact that they pretty much gave up on their dragon kind after Dragon King Nibelung went off the hinges and everyone was willing to follow him. He's like, you know what, let me take this fire and let me go entrust it to humanity. This is super cool. I'm like super interested to learn more about Natlan's history for sure. But yeah, that was the Obsidian Codex. So we learned a little bit about ancient civilization, about Natlan's first upbringings following the dragon's defeat, even talking about, I think, Fanis versing Dragon King Nibelung, and then the first human to wield phlogiston, which is super cool. Like that's really great world building and pretty awesome lore overall. We're gonna take a little intermission and then we're gonna continue. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with more Genshin Impact lore reading content. We just finished reading the Obsidian Codex, which gave like pretty much the history and the birth of Natlan as a nation from the dragon era to even like the war between Dragon King Nibelung, Ubah, right? The freaking Sage of the Stolen Flame yoinking the primal fire and giving it to humans because he's like, yo, my dragon family are so embarrassing. I'm so sorry. I don't want anything to do with them. I believe in humanity. Let's try to obfuscate our fate. And so that way we all survive. Apparently there might have even been some like human dragon hybrid experimentation, evolution, if you will. So I don't know if Ubah is a dragon turned human, or if there's a potential for humans to turn into dragons, or if this is like the start of like the Bishop people lore. But a lot of awesome lore that we got in the Obsidian Codex. I hope you guys enjoyed reading and getting into that with me. We are here because we are now getting into the next portion. We're getting into the next portion of lore, which hold up. We're getting raided. Yo, what up, Bran? What's going on, guys? Oh my gosh, another raid. That's huge. Hey, Bran, thanks for the raid again, dude. I appreciate the fuck out of you. Welcome in, raiders. You joined at the perfect time. I'm literally about to start yapping about lore. We're gonna be reading some weapons and description stuff and all that jazz. That being said, we're actually gonna be checking out the Dragon Era lore. So all of this lore that we're gonna get into now for this recording pertains to, I assume, the era of the dragon civilization that predates a lot of the stuff that we have of present day Natlan. We just read the Obsidian Codex, and now we're getting into the Dragon Era, which is basically all of this stuff in this second category here. So we're going to be reading weapons, and then we're reading a book as well, the Records of Hanan Patcha, which is the Upper Sanctum. All right, so we are back here for the Hanan Patcha book reading, and this is the Upper Sanctum. So I'm expecting a ton of lore for the Sage of the Stolen Flame, his teachings in regards to like phlogiston and everything else in between. Very eager for this book. Oh my God, also this book is fucking massive. Holy moly, this is a long ass book. When I first collected this book and it said Records of Hanan Patcha, I thought Hanan Patcha would have been a person. I thought it was going to be a person, because in the Scions of the Canopy area, there's someone standing at the edge of like, I don't know, like the cliff or whatever, and his name is Patcha. So I was like, oh, is the lore about someone named Hanan Patcha or something? So I thought that was kind of funny. Anyways, let us read Records of Hanan Patcha Volume 1. a fable passed down from generation to generation in which the legendary Sage of the Stolen Flame is the main protagonist. Professional historians, it is said, have come to the consensus that this tale has nothing to do with historical fact. What is this? Literati fan fiction? What's going on here? I know the truth. I'll be able to discern what's real and what's not. Let's see what this is all about. Volume 1. Here is chronicled the story of how the wisest sage of all of history, Waxaklahun Ubah, the one known as the Sage of the Stolen Flame, aka the Goat of Humanity, and how the tribe living upon Hanan Patcha, which he built, rose up and then was shattered. Like many of the most ancient stories, it began in an age when the stars and the moon held the sky. The dragons ruled the land, and the Lord of the Night ruled the Night Kingdom. Interesting. The people then were arrogant and wandered the barren lands. The first Pyro Archon had not yet been born, and so none yet had visions, could do naught but be controlled by the elements. Wow, hey, so far so good. Things are looking good. Until Waxaklahun Ubah brought back the kindling of phlogiston from the red and black land. Only then did humanity gain the power to vie with wild beasts and fell dragons. Hell yeah. Now, astute listeners might already be wondering, as a human, how... You know what's crazy, bro? I was literally calling bullshit the second I started the world quest when they said that Ubah was a human. I was like, that doesn't make sense. How would a human steal power from dragons and give it to humans? It makes more sense that it's a dragon stealing from dragons and giving it to humans. This is fake news. Everything was good up until that point. Now, astute listeners, you may be wondering, as a human, how could the sage Waxaklahun Ubah steal the phlogiston kindling from the claws of the evil dragon? This is precisely the first story I am going to tell. All right, fan fiction from here on out. Legend tells us that long ago in the red and black lands, there lived a winged dragon. That dragon was the scion of the great lord of the volcano, Xiaquatl. In some versions of the story, it is said that he was none other than Xiaquatl himself. But God only knows what kind of storyteller would make such a mistake. After all, who could forget that the one who defeated Xiaquatl was the very first Pyro Archon, Xbalanque himself? How could things have been resolved at a point so early in the story? Anyways, when the great... This is like written like someone's actually verbally dictating this. Anyways, when the great lord of the volcano fell into deep slumber, this vain, wicked dragon claimed the treasures that once belonged to the former and proclaimed itself to be the lone king. Among those treasures, one of the most striking was known as pyrophosphorite. It was a crystal refined of the primal fire in the depths of the great volcano, and its color was that of the ever-shifting rainbow, shining with dazzling light. I really hope we see pyrophosphorite when we go to the volcano with Bibu in like 5 point whatever. I think that'd be super cool to see like all of these things come to life when we go there. Illuminated by this radiance, the winged dragon itself became bewitchingly brilliant. Gaze upon me and see how beautiful I am. My light illuminates the world, and I am the son of this land. So spake the I think it's supposed to say spoke, not spake. So spoke the winged dragon, but he was no sun, and his beauty was nothing but the reflection of the pyrophosphorite's light. And in turn, that light did no more than illuminate the red and black lands in which it dwelt. Spake is real? Is it? I thought it said so spoke. Okay, I guess it's so spake. I've never heard of that before. What does spake mean? Let me look that up. Archaic past term of speak. Oh, okay. This is boomer speech right here. Perhaps it was the vanity of the winged dragon that offended the Lord of the Night, for he sent the sage Waxaklahun Ubah to defeat him. But perhaps it seemed not enough to some, and so the gods sent the fool Chahak with him. Guys, we got Chahak back. Chahak learned the ways of the fire from Ubah. Under the protection of the Lord of the Night, the two arrived in the red and black lands, and far away, they saw that radiant winged dragon. Waxaklahun Ubah was in no hurry to rush onward, but rather make a blow dart from bamboo and struck the dragon's eye with a single shot. Chahak watched with glee and was about to charge up to capture the winged dragon, but was restrained by the sage. Foolish Chahak. With one eye, he is now blinded. He still possesses limitless power. With your human body, just how do you intend to contend with him? The wise Waxaklahun Ubah thought up a better plan. The wounded winged dragon returned to its cave to hide. And so the sage Waxaklahun Ubah and the fool Chahak disguised themselves as doctors and entered the cave. Are you fucking kidding me? This dragon's literally capping if it believes this. My word, how glorious are you? How splendid and radiant. Ah, but what a shame that you cannot see yourself, and neither can the masses behold your beauty. Waxaklahun Ubah praised him, goaded. 10-head dragon, 10-head sage right here. It's all because, yo, literally, bro's literally running laps around his own dragon kind. How is bro so smart? It's all because a few days ago, those despicable maggots shot and blinded my eye. This is why I can but hide in this cave. So this is truly serendipitous. We happen to be traveling doctors specializing in curing eye diseases. Bro, that's in my opinion, if you replace your, oh my god, dude. In my opinion, if you replace your eye with a bright gem, you will once more be able to see the light, said the sage. And not only that, but you can even replace your fangs and claws with gems that you would surely shine 12 times more brightly than you already do. Like taking candy from a baby. I will say something. Yeah, I was just about to say, all of this talk of gems is kind of reminding me of the gem collector from the quest that we did with that boy and his blind father that like ties back into like the moon story. The story of Koilor and like the star and like the star shards. That boy's father, the blind one that's in the Children of Echoes, he said like, beware of the gem collector. And like now we have like Ubah talking about gems, and I don't know, man. I don't know who the gem collector is. I'm just thinking about that. Hearing these words, the conceited winged dragon could not help but fantasize about how beautiful it would be when it was 12 times more radiant. It happily agreed without stopping to think of oh boy. It happily agreed without stopping to think about it in any detail. And so the sage and the fool Chahak took out the grain fruit they had earlier prepared, and one by one replaced the winged dragon's eyes, fangs, and claws with grain fruit. Ah, the poor winged dragon. Not only has his eye not healed, but by the time he realizes that he's been tricked, he couldn't even eat those two little humans. And so he died in a daze, and the pyrophosphite fell into the hands of Waxaklahun Ubah. These dragons are so primitive. Literally, this sage is next level galaxy brain. Like, how is he so smart compared to everybody else? That's insane. Unless maybe he got his intelligence from something or someone. But goddamn, next level. The fool Chahak thought they would offer the treasure to the Lord of the Night, but the wise Waxaklahun Ubah had a different idea again. He never misses with the big brain strats. He knew that the dragons that ruled the land possessed powers far beyond that of humanity, but did not necessarily have more wisdom. Yeah, I know. And the secret to power lay within that pyrophosphite. And so he broke it open, and vast power poured forth. The sage Waxaklahun Ubah thus gained the power of dragons, that which is known as phlogiston. Holy moly. All right, bro yoinked the power of dragons in the form of pyrophosphite, and within that pyrophosphite was phlogiston, and thus Natlan's history is changed literally forever. Volume 2. Next, I will tell you the story of how the sage Waxaklahun Ubah passed phlogiston to the people of the tribe and built Hanan Patcha. Also, just want to go on the record saying the sage is a dragon, regardless of whatever this person says, because clearly they don't know what they're talking about. Anyways, after leaving the red and black lands, Waxaklahun Ubah and the fool Chahak came to the land of forest and mountains where human tribes lived. Waxaklahun Ubah wished to pass on the power to use phlogiston to humans, but none wished to learn from him, for none knew just what use the phlogiston he spoke of was. Which makes sense. Bro, and he's looking out for them too. He's like, humans will get fucking eviscerated by dragons, so they need power to combat them. And so he's like, I need to bring fire to the mortals. What a great guy. What a lad. What a nice guy. What a nice dragon man. If we want to make fire, we need only strike the flint. And for the fuel, there's firewood and vegetation everywhere. What use have we for phlogiston? You can do it in half the time. Your time is so valuable. Look at that. Efficiency. Oh, short-sighted people, do you not know there will come a day when all plants and firewood are consumed and are no more, and that the most plentiful, inexhaustible things in this world is rocks? If you can use phlogiston to burn rocks, then you will have solved the problem of obtaining energy once and for all. Thus spake the... Okay, apparently spake is the way you're supposed to say it. I don't care. Thus spoke the sage, filled with confidence. Haha, I'm afraid we will never see that day come. The people then could not yet see their ancestors in the Night Kingdom, and thus they naturally did not think of the future. And so Waxaklahun Ubah had no choice but to give up. The fool Chahak, seeing the sage troubled by this, suggested, oh, I think Chahak, why is he calling Chahak a fool? Chahak's actually galaxy brain right here. I think Chahak was like, what if you teach me phlogiston, and then instead of them being like, I don't want to learn phlogiston from this dragon person thing, maybe it's easier to learn it from another human. Maybe Chahak could like secretly like weave it into the culture and be like, oh, this thing that I did, it makes our lives so much easier. I can show you how to do it, and I can show you where to go to learn it yourself. He basically was a middleman, I think. Let's see. The fool Chahak, seeing the sage troubled by this, suggested a solution that would make the benefits phlogiston could bring readily apparent to all. So, like, we could take this big old rock and raise it up higher than the mountains where everyone can see it. Then, like, everyone will totally get all confused and come running at... Okay, hold on. All right, Chahak might actually be a fool. I stand corrected with that one passage right there. Though they were the words of a fool, Waxaklahun Ubah had little choice but to try. And so he first taught Chahak how to use phlogiston, and the two of them raised the land together. The land thus raised was none other than Hanan Patcha, the upper sanctum of which people today now speak. But unlike today, the Hanan Patcha of those days was still a vast tract of land, whole and complete. It floated above the clouds, and all the humans of Natlan could confirm its existence with a glance. And so, one by one, people from all corners were driven there by their curiosity. Chahak was low-key kind of right? He's like, yo, let's just make a floating island in the sky. People will flock to it. The kind-hearted Chahak stood guard by the lake, using the power of phlogiston to help the people ascend to Hanan Patcha. And those that ascended to Hanan Patcha learned the art of using phlogiston from the sage Waxaklahun Ubah. And under the leadership of Waxaklahun Ubah, the people founded the first permanently settled tribe upon Hanan Patcha. This is such cool, awesome, rich lore, guys. I love this so. This is so freaking dope. I love the lore of Ubah and phlogiston probably more than anything else so far. Like, we don't know the full story of the Pyro Archon, right? Shibalanke. We'll probably get that in 5.2. But like, Ubah is goated. He's probably my favorite character in Natlan, like across all the lore that I've read so far. Volume 3. Next, I will tell you of how the people of Hanan Patcha broke the taboos and caused the Sage of the Stolen Flame to leave Natlan. After the people were taught how to use the power of phlogiston, they built a city on top of Hanan Patcha. Within the city were magnificent palaces and temples, all made of rare gems, brilliant feathers, and fragrant flowers. After completing all of this, Waxaklahun Ubah decided to raise Hanan Patcha still higher. For this, all of you must no longer eat anything produced by this land, save for water, for all the streams of this world flows from the source of all waters, and are not subjected to the Lord of Night's control. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So because the source of the water is beyond like Natlan, they're not allowed to drink the water or eat anything produced for the land. Chahak had no idea why they should go yet higher and didn't want to leave Natlan. But whenever he went to ask Waxaklahun Ubah this question, the latter would only speak of the lunar continent and Newark Holy Stone and other stuff he couldn't understand. Lunar continent? Is it the moon? Hello? As Waxaklahun Ubah was the smartest person in the world, everyone did as he said. And so they began to raise fish in the blue expanse and grow blue algae for food, and Hanan Patcha flew higher each day. Finally, the Lord of the Night realized the sage's intentions. As they feared humanity's departure, they decided to try and stop his plan. Was bro just trying to he's like, bro, I'm gonna be just like Celestia. One day, while the sage was away, the Lord of the Night disguised himself as a human of the tribe, and carrying a bottle of mysterious water, he found Shahak waiting by the lake. Friend, don't guard the water of this lake any longer. See, the water I hold is 100 times sweeter than that of the lake. Come, have a taste. Though he thought of what the sage had said, it was just water, so it should be fine. Or so Shahak thought, reaching out and taking a sip. You fool! You actually deserve that title now. Hold on. Trying it, he discovered the taste was truly sweet beyond compare, and so the Lord of the Night gave him more sweet water, and he brought it up to Hanan Patcha, sharing it with all. But what Shahak did not know was that this sweet water was actually brewed from the grains grown from the land. In the modern parlance, it was alcohol. Oh no. Hold up. They got fucked up. When the sage returned, everyone was dead drunk. The sage knew that they could no longer leave Natlan, and so he expelled them from Hanan Patcha. The scattered people brought phlogiston with them to every corner of Natlan, and so the sage of the stolen flame set out on the road home. The road home? Does that mean he went back to the red and black lands? Were you listening or not? The red and black lands were where the sage stole phlogiston. Though the legends don't actually say where the sage's homeland was. So I suppose what the road home means is that someday he will return. Come on, that's obviously just one of the storyteller's lines you guys always use. How about you cut it with the suspense? Interesting. He's like, you guys have been tainted. You guys can no longer rise into the heavens. Get out of here. You're all banned. I'm going home. I wonder if home was the place where we were with Arsarian, right? The area we were just at. I just don't know where that place is or what it is or what it implies. I really hope we get more stories of this. This was such a fantastic read. This was such a great read, dude. I love Ubah. I love Waxaklahun. I'm a Waxaklahun Ubah fan, guys. I sided with him. I believe in the Sage of the Stolen Flame, but also he's a dragon. All right, let's get that straight. But yeah, I think the area that we go when we go down the lava of that one domain area and we go through the catastrophe's edge and we reach that final location on the water with that one structured area, I think that might have been where he went. Like that was his home, the sacred mountain or whatever it is he called it. I think that actually is the case, but this place is so dank with rich lore of Natlan's history. Phlogiston is such a cool concept. Like, it's the natural energy of the world. It's been appropriated to suit humanity in elemental energy, which directly combats the abyss, which means, like, in a sense, it's almost kind of like their direct counter to fighting off the abyss. It's an energy source. It can be used for like light and fire and warmth and power and like graffiti, and it's obviously involved in like everything regarding like, you know, the paintings and the ancient name forging and everything like that. Phlogiston is so awesome. It's such a cool concept. I thoroughly enjoy it. I really appreciate it for all of the history that Natlan has. It's so unlike anything that we've really experienced. It's almost kind of like a polar opposite to the Primordial Sea, because the Primordial Sea isn't part of like Fontaine's culture or anything. At most, it's just like indirectly associated with the Oceanids being humans. This is actually like, this kind of enriches Natlan as a whole and makes me really appreciate everything that we get about it, because it always comes back to the stolen flame given to mortals. It's so sick. And again, it's the classic Prometheus stealing fire from the gods and giving it to mortals kind of thing. Yeah, this was fantastic. I hope you guys enjoyed the reading. We're gonna take a short little intermission, and we're gonna continue with the goated Natlan lore and follow up with a bunch of other things as well. So stay tuned.